Good evening, all, and welcome into the Back Road In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR show. My name's Elliot Hicks. I'm back with you this week, and so is Seth Woolcock, and we've got a special guest here. It's Chris from the Flag Hunting Podcast. Normally, I asked this before the show, but I completely forgot. How is it that you pronounce your last name, just so I don't mess it up?
Yes, it's Collichio.
Collichio. See, I would have messed that up, so that's good.
No worries.
Chris, it's great to have you here from the Flag Hunting Podcast. Seth, how are you doing this week, too?
Elliot, I am ready to go, man. One of the greatest seasons of NASCAR continues this week as we head to Michigan. We're going to break everything down from who we're going to be tailing, some of our favorite bets to be making, and what you need to know for DraftKings lineups as well. So I am absolutely thrilled to have Chris here. I've been a big fan of what they're doing over there at Flag Hunting. So, Chris, I know you're probably thrilled to be here being a Tyler Riddick this fan, hot off that win, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was just telling you guys before the show, obviously, we weren't on him from a podcast standpoint, but if your bets don't hit, it's good to be to have your, the guy you're a fan of win the race at the very least.
Absolutely.
No doubt about that. All right, without further ado, let's get rolling and look back in the rear view. So as usual, we'll take a quick look back at the last two races. We'll start off with Pocono. A pretty good day for Joe Gibbs Racing at the Tricky Triangle. We had another chapter of the Ross Chastain and Denny Hamlin rivalry. Denny Hamlin crossed the finish line first, and Kyle Busch crossed it second, but it was Chase Elliott who got the win as we had our first disqualification of a Cup winner since, I believe, 1960. Been quite a while. What did you guys think of the race, and what were the results of some of your bets there? Seth, we'll start off with you.
Well, I think we can just say Pocono's back. The last two Pocono races have been incredible, and I think they're going to start regretting not having either a doubleheader or two different trips up to Long Pond there. So Pocono's back. It was an awesome race to see. Kind of funny to see it all, shake out for Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Joe Gibbs there. Bets were hitting, though. Bets, obviously a lot of people kind of had some swings with what kind of happened at the end there. I know some draft books or some sports books did reimburse people for what was going on. I missed a couple of my top 10 bets. I was high on Willie B. I was high on Kevin Harvick getting done up there in Long Pond. They did not hit. However, I did have another DraftKings special hit at plus 450. I was Chase and Larson to finish in the top 5. I needed both those DQs to make it happen, but it happened anyways. So plus 450, it got it done on the week. DK lineup, so just a mess, man. So much Denny Hamlin, so much Ross Chastain, and Kyle Busch. Those were kind of the three guys I was all in on last week or 2 weeks ago. So Pocono was a fun one. Got it done with that DraftKings special, but kind of a tough one to swallow if you're playing any lineups.
Yeah, same on my side too. It was a good week, honestly. And normally I'll play, for flag hunting, we'll play normally like 2 or 3 outrights. But we played just one with Larson, and that's the only bet on the card that actually didn't hit. So I guess that's pretty good. We had a Hamlin T3 and Kyle Busch T5 bets, which still cashed even though they got DQ'd. We still got paid out for those. And then I had a Suarez T10 and a Christopher Bell over Logano matchup play. So all those hit, obviously, and then the Kurt Busch matchup play that was voided due to that wreck. I don't think I saw that wreck, but that was a nasty wreck qualifying. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. Pocono was fantastic. I think this car is really making an argument for races like Pocono, or we just heard a lot about bringing the oval back at Indy, or getting rid of the Roval at Charlotte and running 2 races at Charlotte. This car is doing really good for this intermediate style track. So I agree with you. Let's get 2 races at Pocono.
Elliot, is it the uniqueness you think of Pocono now with this next gen car that you think is just kind of really getting maximized with it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Pocono did get a little bit stale. They shortened it from 500 to 400 miles. That still didn't help. I think that the doubleheader weekend is pretty cool. We don't have one of those anymore. That was a pretty cool experiment. We see, I think, 2 or 3 every year in IndyCar. And especially with these next-gen cars, I don't think there's much of a reason, especially once we get supply back up of the cars, next year, that shouldn't be an issue at all, to go ahead and have that doubleheader weekend there. Because I agree, it's a track you need on the schedule, even if only for the fact that it's a freaking 3-turn triangle. You can't get rid of one of the most unique tracks on the circuit.
Well, I think Full Tank Phil was on with us a couple weeks ago too, and he said it. There is no better turn one in NASCAR than Pocono, and I think we really saw that unfold a couple weeks ago. The stars came to play, so it was a fun one. Indy road course though, Elliot too. I think it was maybe just as interesting. Some sloppy driving, but still interesting.
Yeah, you want to talk about turn ones? What was it that Dale Jr. called it? The funnel of pain or something that we saw go through there. So that one was pretty nuts. We saw all that craziness in turn one, some access road controversy with Chastain and Austin Dillon. Pit stop strategy kind of dictating it. Ryan Blaney only made like one pit stop in the first 3/4 of that race. That was a little nuts. But it didn't work out. It was your guy, Tyler Reddick. He had the dominant car, and he got a well-earned win. How did your guys' bets go for the Indy road course?
Awful, man. I was all in on Ross Chastain and Suarez once again. These Trackhouse boys have been dominant, absolutely dominant at these road courses. And then, going into the last restart, I was feeling great. Had both of them in the top 5, had a nice little parlay for a top 10 on them. The odds were looking really, really good for us. Did not go well there. Did not go well in the DK lineups. But fun as hell to watch, man. And even though Ross technically wasn't in bounds when he came back in, I'm a Ross fan nowadays. So it was fun to see regardless.
See, I have a little bit different take on that. I don't love the Ross access road almost getting in the way of Reddick there at the end.
I think it's kind of badass.
It was worth a shot. Apparently people had talked about it a little bit. They were like, maybe NASCAR's not going to penalize it. Apparently Austin Dillon did it in stage 1 and nobody caught it because it wasn't for the lead. Nobody cared. But it was worth a shot. It was ballsy even if it didn't work.
Just watching the replay, though, you have to admit that's pretty badass. Like he just comes out of there moving.
Going to turn 1, and he's like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to the access road.
Denny Hamlin was on the Door Bumper Clear podcast this week. I don't know if you guys listened to that or not, but he mentioned on there how he was like, I'm glad Ross was the one that did it first because we were really thinking about doing it. Mm-hmm. And I guess TJ Majors went back and looked at the SMT data for that, and like there was no question that Ross was that was his focal point. Like he was going straight for the access point no matter what. He wasn't caring that there was a wreck right there. He didn't even like let off the throttle, just went straight for the access point. But I mean, hey, props to Reddick though for staying composed. He was on Sirius Radio earlier today talking about how, of course, the one person who takes it is Ross Chastain on the final turn or the final lap of the race, and he was just like, "Oh God, this is not the guy I want to see next to me after the race I've had." So, but hey, for him to stay composed and still stick out that win, that's a grinding win right there for Todd Riddick.
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes that's what you got to do. And I'll give Ross a little credit. I think it was a clever move, but just a fun race, and it comes to a close here. And now we go to Michigan, which this is, Elliot, this might be one of my favorite tracks on the circuit, and we haven't seen it in a little while too, which is interesting. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, Michigan should be a lot of fun. So let's talk about it in the Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Shout out, as always, to Ray Dunlap. So we got Michigan up next. It's a 2-mile speedway of sorts. I'd say it's most similar to Auto Club, which we raced at earlier in the year. But I think this will be better racing because Auto Club was only the second race with the next-gen car, the first real race, if you want to say that, because they were just learning, because Daytona was the first race. But so looking back to Auto Club and some of these other tracks that are similar, what are some of the trends you guys have for Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking back at Auto Club. I know it's a long time ago, but when I was trying to find a track of comparison on the circuit, that was it. Larson obviously gets that one done. We saw a lot of promise out of Tyler Reddick that day too, though. Won the top 2 stages in that race, 90-plus laps led, and Joey Logano was strong too. So I kind of looked at Auto Club, and then I looked back at Michigan history. Larson, he's a top 3 winner, so obviously, the odds are in his favor going into this. Joey Logano, he's a 3-time winner as well. And Tyler Reddick, he hasn't really done anything to note here. 18th is his best finish, but he's only been here 3 times. Definitely, it was a newer driver back then, not the Tyler Reddick we know now. So those were kind of the trends I was looking back. I wanted to cross-reference Auto Club with past Michigan races, and these are the 3 guys I'm very interested, I think, just from an odds perspective. Chris?
Yes, I take a little different approach. So I looked back at the tire combo used here last year. And the tire compound they used was the compound from Kansas Auto Club in Vegas. Or sorry, not Auto Club. Kansas, Vegas, and Texas was the compound that was used.
Interesting.
So given that we don't have a lot of data to use for Texas from the All-Star race this year, I actually pulled in Charlotte from this year. So I'm using the Kansas, Vegas, and Charlotte 22 next-gen data. So no surprise there. From what you can remember from those tracks, it's pretty much Toyota dominant. So I've got a pretty heavy lean on Toyota this week. That's kind of where I'm sitting. Now, I will point out, this may all be for naught, because J-Ski actually posted about a few hours ago what the tire compound is going to be. They're not using that same tire compound. They're doing it's a unique tire compound. So we have no idea what to expect. So I'm going to stick it out with what I put together, and we'll see what happens. But that was just my take on what I was going to do with my model this week.
See, it wouldn't surprise me if the Toyotas run well. Being up there in Michigan near Detroit, I'm really feeling those blue ovals this week. I'm thinking we'll see a Ford go to victory. As for which one, I'm not sure. There's a lot of them, but I'm really feeling the blue oval this week. Any other Michigan thoughts before we move on to Richmond?
No, I think we're going to break down more in depth, our best bets here in our next segment, but did want to kind of foreshadow to Richmond here a little bit as well.
Yeah, so it's really weird talking about the second Richmond race already in the beginning of August. Normally it's a playoff race. Last year it was over September 11th weekend. So traditionally it was the last race before the playoffs. Now the racing has just grown to be such a poor product there. We threw them both in the daytime. Now they're both in the regular season. Richmond, a track maybe faltering a little bit. I thought the race was decent, though, in the spring. It did end up coming down to pit strategy. I would imagine the race will go quite similarly. But what are your guys' thoughts on Richmond?
Can I just be honest? I effing hate Richmond. It is why we go here twice in a season is beyond me. Elliot, you've been to Richmond. Am I right on that?
Right, yeah. Richmond was the most recent race I went to last year.
Is the in-person experience any better than the television product?
Anytime you go to a race, it's fun. But I'll be honest, that Cup race was putting me damn near to sleep. That was, Truex led the last 150 laps straight on in a green flag run. It just was not very good racing.
Chris, have you ever been to Richmond?
I've never been. No, I've never been. It's really not far from me, though. I should make the trip one of these days, but I don't know. Maybe you're talking me out of it.
Yeah, maybe save your gas for another race here. As far as Richmond, though, there's not a lot to go off. You have the past Richmond races. You have the earlier spring Richmond race to go off of. Obviously, we know Denny Hamlin. He's extremely motivated coming into this race. Somehow squeaked out that win in the spring. I was really surprised that he kind of got that one done. Kevin Harvick, we know he is absolutely going for broke at this point with Kevin Harvick. I really don't want anything to do with him as far as betting and DFS right now, just because I think he's either going to try to win or he's going to get, 30th like he has the last couple of races. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. 7 wins between the two of them, though, 3,000 plus laps led. So you have to kind of factor that in when you are thinking, should I be putting something on Hamlin, whether it's just a unit or two, Harvick as well. Chris, what about you? When you were kind of looking back at Richmond coming into this, what were you drawing from?
Yeah, actually, I agree with you with the Harvick take. We were actually on Harvick the last Richmond race, so we were hoping that something was going to happen to Hamlin so we could cash that Harvick ticket.
Yeah.
So we'll probably be back on Harvick again, especially with, obviously the playoff hunt going on right now. Harvick really needs to do, records or checkers, like you said. He's going to need to do whatever he can to get to victory lane. So I'm definitely going to be on Harvick probably in some form or fashion, but I think I'm actually probably on Truex or something as well instead of Hamlin. You mentioned the dominance between those two, but Truex has 3 wins in the last 6 races here. And talk about redemption from the last race, the last short flat that we had at Loudon. I think Truex, it could be a real dominant force at Richmond, and he needs it because I think we all know that there's going to be some chaos come Daytona, and I don't think Truex wants to be sitting on that bubble, come that race. So I think that's where I'm going to lean as well. But I'm also kind of interested in Seabell as well. I don't want to overlook him because, I told you guys, I wasn't on Riddick this week for the road course this past week, but I don't know why I wasn't because he was so dominant at Road America. So I don't want to overlook Christopher Bell with how dominant he was at Loudon. I think Chris Bell could be kind of sneaky at Richmond as well.
That's a really good point. I think one thing that we as analysts try to do is when these first time winners come off that first win, we try to get off that train as quickly as we can, whether it was Suarez earlier this year, Ross, Reddick a couple weeks ago. And Chris, I think that makes a great point. And I think, Chris Bell should probably definitely be back in play here. And, his price always fluctuates in DraftKings. That's like the frustrating thing about playing him a lot of time in these DFS lineups. His starting position is always all over the place too, though. So he can be interesting for those move up points. Elliot, is there anything else you're kind of seeing here when we're talking about Richmond, especially having some firsthand experience at the track?
Yeah, I've definitely got a few thoughts on a few of these guys you've been talking about. Christopher Bell, really good name to watch. He was dominant in Xfinity races too before he came to Cup. I think he won. He had to have won twice, 3 times in Xfinity at Richmond. So definitely really good there. In terms of Harvick, I'm always the kind of guy to jump on a bet. Hey, this guy needs to win. Ride him and let's go.
We've been doing that all year though for him,
Yeah.
But we did it all last year.
So Stuart Haas Racing, last year they were bad. This year they're not as bad. They're kind of in a purgatory of sorts because we've seen decent speed from Harvick. Even Cole Custer ran in the top 10 at Indy Road Course. So they've had their moments, but I just don't see him getting the victory lane for sure. This week more than ever, post-practice qualifying odds could be where money is.
Yeah, Derek's making a great point here. Post-practice qualifying odds, those are really going to be where a lot of money is made. So definitely take into account what we're saying here early in the week, but there's definitely going to be a lot of fluctuation in everything heading into the weekend.
Yeah, but at the end of the day here at Richmond, I think there's going to be 16 winners at the end of it, and winner number 15 for the season is going to show up, and it's going to be Martin Truex Jr. This just screams a Truex.
Okay.
Another Truex dominating, 200-lap led race. I think this is where Truex gets it done.
So this is a nap race is what you're telling me in the afternoon. It's taking a little snoozy.
Maybe if there's a little bit of pit strategy, it'll shake it up. But, just from what I've seen, the pit strategy helped the Richmond race in the spring. But that I don't remember any really standout racing moments. It was better than it had been. But we're still not quite there yet. Maybe the drivers knowing the car better will help. Maybe being hotter will help out somehow, some way. I'm not sure. But I'm feeling Truex, and I'm feeling dominance from him.
Can I just start the petition right now? Let's keep Road America on the schedule, get the Chicago course, and get rid of a Richmond date. I don't know what we're doing here with NASCAR. I get Richmond. Is Richmond a pretty historical track? Is that the whole deal here? I just don't get it.
Right. I'm not entirely familiar with who owns Richmond because a lot of times it has to do with that they try to keep the same balance of the NASCAR-owned tracks and the Speedway Motorsports tracks, and then you still have a few independents lurking around. So I'm not sure where Richmond falls in.
Well, let's say F the politics and let's get, think about the product first. I think that's what we need to do. But I think enough ranting on that, Elliot. I think we should probably get to our parking lot props. What do you think?
Let's do it. And I'm seeing some real good stuff here on these notes. Let's hear these props, guys.
Okay, guys. So we're coming into this week. We know who the favorites are. Chase Elliott plus 600, Kyle Busch plus 650, Kyle Larson plus 700, Ross is up there plus 900, and of course Denny Hamlin plus 750. This is a week I really feel like the odds were tough. I think they got them right. Coming into this, if you would have said, hey, who are your 5 favorites coming into this? This is kind of my list. Chris, is there any that stick out to you that maybe were wrongly priced, that even at their right price that you are still just thinking overall here at these favorites that you like?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that I got a pretty strong lean on Toyota this week. So obviously Kyle Busch and Denny stood out to me. At the book that I use, I've actually got a little better access to Kyle Busch and Denny's odds. So I got plus 750 for Kyle Busch and plus 850 for Denny. So those are both in consideration for sure. But I bet that I'm actually going to get to it in a little bit, but I'll go ahead and kind of talk about it now since it kind of fits in here. If you're a fan of any of these, 5 guys you just mentioned, Chase, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Denny, or Ross, I strongly urge you to take the winner of the poll to win the race at plus 700, because if one of these guys was to win pole, you're getting a deal at plus 700 because they're all going to boost, their value is going to shoot down. So that's kind of my strategy. I'm actually kind of looking at that kind of prop for this range of guys. That way, hey, if one of them wins the poll, you got a pretty easy outright ticket kind of sitting in your pocket.
That's great advice, Chris, especially with so many of these favorites. They've been guys who have kind of controlled the pool almost the entire season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have some qualifying bets coming up, so I'll save some of those for later. But a lot of these guys are the favorites for qualifying for a reason as well.
Awesome. To me, guys, I think my favorite off this list is Kyle Larson at plus 700. I just like what he's been doing lately. And when you take everything into account, the 3-time winner here in a lot lesser of equipment. Last time they've been back here is 2020. And then coming into it, just having such a good performance at Auto Club, I think it all just shakes out for a very good Kyle Larson performance. Plus 700 odds. I mean, this time last year, we would be like, dying for those Kyle Larson odds. So I got to pound the table on him. I'll probably continue to ride him in DraftKings as well. I have the last few weeks. The toughest thing, though, we've said it all year with Kyle Larson, he has such a good qualifying position every time. He's top 2 in qualifying position this year. So it's really hard to get a value on him with those move-up points that you want in DraftKings. So Kyle Larson, to me, is the one that stands out. Chris, do you have like one favorite of these, or it seems like you kind of like all of them in a way?
Yeah, I guess, but if I had to pick one, it's probably Kyle Busch, actually. So I mentioned the 3 tracks I was using earlier as the tire compound that was used last year. So that's Charlotte, Kansas, and Vegas. And so far this year, Kyle has finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th of those 3 tracks. So, I mean, case closed right there for me. I mean, Kyle Busch, it feels like a week where, we've got all this free agent talk going on, and people are starting to kind of doubt him and wonder what's going on. What is he doing next year? And it just feels like one of those weeks where Kyle's, he's just going to come out, he's going to dominate, he's going to win, he's going to shut everybody up and be like, stop talking about it. I'm still here. I'm worried about this year only. So I don't know. That's me. I'm kind of feeling the M&M's car this week.
Right. What's the perfect way to shut everybody up? Go out there and win.
Yeah,
I honestly like this Larson bet a lot, but I'm still sticking with my blue ovals. I'm going to throw a wild card at you guys. How do you feel about Chris Buescher? Nice little wild card winner. Any thoughts?
I like it, Elliot. I just think it's going to be one of these guys has been dominant this year. But I mean, what are the odds on Chris Buescher out right now? They got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have the exact odds in front of me, but it would be a long shot. We've seen some long shots at Michigan before. I remember Brian Vickers winning there. I think that's where Kyle Larson got his first win. And heck, I'm not sure how much betting they did in 2012, but when this guy won here in the Batman car after not winning for 4 years, Dale Jr., that was kind of an upset win too. So we've seen it happen here before.
So Chris is saying, if you're interested in one of these drivers, a good strategy is to place that bet on the pole winner going out there. I like that strategy. Chris, are there any outrights this week? Any other ones that you're interested in personally?
Yeah, so I'm actually the only one I've locked into this point is Martin Truex Jr. I know we just talked about him for Richmond, but so one thing I like to do when I build my model is I'll put my whole model together and then I take the current odds from the books and I kind of put them up against each other and kind of see where the biggest variances are. And the biggest variance for me this week was Martin Truex Jr. He was, he was 2nd in my model and he's 9th on the odds board. So that's like a +7 variance there.
Oh, wow.
So big difference for me. I think for me, it came down to Truex and Christopher Bell just because I have that strong Toyota lean. I really want to bet Kurt Busch, but I don't know if he's going to be in the car or not. I think we're probably going to see Ty again. But if I'm going to take the best odds for the Toyotas, I think Truex and Christopher Bell are the 2 guys sitting there that are just kind of staring at me. But Truex, with being 2nd in the model I put together, I think that's kind of where I'm leaning right now.
Okay. It makes sense. Are there any other top 5 or top 10s that either you or Elliot or any of you guys are kind of leaning here that you might like, or any DraftKings specials as well, or other sportsbook specials as well? We're not loyal to one sportsbook.
Right. Yeah, I see Derek here putting the odds up +10,000, but for Barstool and DK on Chris Buescher. Maybe throw a shot at that. Throw a buck or two.
All right, Elliot, I like it.
So I'm also looking to go back to qualifying. I'm looking at Christopher Bell, 14-1 to win the pole. So I went back and pulled, again, the same 3 tracks I've been referencing this whole time, Charlotte, Kansas, and Vegas. I went back and pulled the qualifying for those 3 tracks for this year. Christopher Bell, 3rd, 1st, and 1st at those 3 tracks. At +1,400, that seems like an absolute steal. So Christopher Bell is, as a pole winner for me. The ones that were kind of surprising when I also kind of looked at the qualifying for this year, was Kurt Busch. Obviously, I've already talked about him. I don't know if he's going to be in the car or not, so I don't really know what happens if you bet that. I would assume they would void it, but 2nd and 5th in qualifying at Charlotte and Kansas. And then a little shocker here, Elliot will like this one since it's a Ford. Austin Cindric, 6th, 4th, and 3rd in qualifying at those 3 tracks. So I think at +3,000 for Cindric to qualify on the pole, that's pretty interesting too. I'm loving the qualifying this week if you can't tell.
No, I mean, they've been very profitable. Our other co-host Rod, he's very, very good in the qualifying one. So, Chris, I like that advice. As far as some in race bets for me here, guys, the one I think I like, and I'm kind of differentiating myself from Chris here. I'm a little more in the Chevys right now. I just think with Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott up there, Ross is always going to be up there as well. I'm really liking what they're putting together. I was kind of looking at maybe Annie Hendricks winning 4 plus 150. I thought that could be a very interesting bet. However, I liked Chevys to take first and second at plus 275. I'm thinking if Kyle Larson comes out and he runs strong, and Chase Elliott's going to run strong, same thing. They've been they have similar setups, I feel like, a lot of the time. So Hendricks is very interesting to me. Chevy's very interesting to me. Plus 275 for first and second. Chris, any other top 10s or any other special bets here for you?
Yeah, I'm going to hit the top 10 market real quick. So honestly, everybody in the minus 110 to plus 180 range is super interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen that range, but it's Bubba, Bowman, Harvick, Suarez, Kurt Busch, Austin Dillon. I think those are all very, very interesting bets to make. But the one that caught my interest the most was actually Austin Dillon at plus 180. So at Charlotte, Las Vegas, and Kansas, he's got an average finish of 15.3 this year, which actually ranks 12th among all drivers. Don't forget, though, he also almost won the race at Charlotte. So but he wrecked going for the win in overtime. So that kind of skewed that. So if you take that out, he would actually rank 9th among all drivers at those other two tracks. And then looking back at last year, he started 26 and was running top 5 all day, pretty much all the way up to the end of stage 2. And I don't think you guys remember, but him and Brad crossed the line at the end of stage 2.
Oh,
and yes,
yep.
And then Austin Dillon pulled up thinking that he was clear and just got absolutely dumped by Brad. And Brad felt so bad about it. Brad was like, "Oh my God, why did he do that? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." But I mean, regardless, Austin Dillon had an incredible car last year. He was running top 5 all day long. This track style for him, that D style track, and you flip the track to the side, it looks like a D. These are always the style of track that I kind of look for Austin Dillon at. He always seems to run really well here. So plus 180 Austin Dillon top 10 is where I'm sitting.
I really like that one, Chris. That's one I was eyeballing as well. And he was also good at Auto Club. I know that was one that you weren't pulling into your data, but he was top 10 there as well. So if there's a chance for Austin Dillon to come back around here, I think, a 2-mile track, it makes sense for him. Definitely. I'm going to throw a little bit longer one of a top 10 out there for you, Elliot. Let me know what you think of this, man. Plus 2,500 here for a Gilliland at top 10. And I mean, obviously those odds were probably even, maybe even more generous last week for him as well. But I just like what we've seen from him these last couple of weeks. Top 5 this last week. He's 20th at Auto Club and top 4 or top 17, at Atlanta as well. So David Gilliland, I think it's or Todd Gilliland, gonna be an interesting one for him. But I like to take a dart throw each week, every couple of weeks. Some long odd bets. Does that rub anyone a certain way?
Hey, that's not bad. I've been here standing the Fords the whole time, so may as well take a shot.
Hey, he's riding a high too. I mean, for to be a rookie, finish top 5 at a road course. He's riding top of the world right now. I'm looking at his finishes. He did finish 16th in Charlotte, so I don't hate this at all.
It's, for those odds, I mean, realistically, you can throw a unit down and, I mean, you could really, really profit from it. I don't know if I would use, depending on what your bankroll is, I don't think I'd use a full unit of mine, but, something at least I think is due here.
Absolutely. Yeah, one thing I really appreciate, we're perfectly balanced. We didn't plan this, but each of the 3 of us, we all are going for one particular manufacturer. So you've got all your bases covered as always here on the back road. And
got
one more thing,
some side bets going on here after the show.
Yeah, maybe. With mentioning Hendrick, I think Hendrick getting a win makes sense. I think you have to stick with the hot duo, the hotter duo, I guess, of Larson and Elliot. What I've seen out of Byron and Bowman, not worth it. I think that those are the 2 cars, that's not necessarily the teams would experiment with things, or maybe they're trying some things out. But if they are, it's definitely on those 2 cars that they're going to be doing it. So it's risky.
Chris, one more for you here as well. Plus 550 for Chase Elliott to win the pole. What do you think of that? Are those odds too low for you to want to take that? Average start position here is 10.2, second best in the Cup Series, only behind Ryan Blaney. So he's won a lot of poles this year. he obviously is good at qualifying on this track as well. Are you interested in that one?
Yeah, so that one, I saw you put that in the show sheet, and that one actually kind of surprised me with that average start because, the 3 tracks that I was looking at, his qualifying at those 3 tracks was 13th, 14th, and 5th. So he ranked out as like 7th best on the board for me, and that's for him being plus 550 was a little too steep of a price for me to pay.
I can understand that. I like it a lot. I bet if you look around at some other books, so maybe you could get some more generous odds on that.
Absolutely. Or I'm a big proponent of finding like a baseball bet or something like that and parlay them together and get better odds. That's always fun to do.
Okay. Yeah. Trade deadline just happened, so might be some interesting odds out there in MLB as well. Juan Soto on the move, boys.
Padres. I actually have a Padres World Series future that basically cut in half today. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris is a gambling aficionado. What he's kind of told us. Chris, any more before we get to matchups and groups? Are there any more of these special bets or top 10, top 5s, anything like that qualifying that you're looking at that maybe our listeners could benefit from?
I think as of right now, that's probably all I have. Being that I am feeling pretty strongly on Toyota, I wouldn't be opposed to probably playing some like top 5 bets on those top Toyota guys, just as kind of insurance. But yeah, other than that, that's really all I've kind of highlighted right now before we get to the matchups.
So real quick with you guys, with Ty Gibbs being a midweek replacement in the 45 both of these weeks, have there been specific odds on him released closer to race day, and have they been worth a shot? I don't even know if they've been for qualifying as well.
I don't think qualifying. I don't think I've seen qualifying odds. I could be wrong though.
No, I don't believe I've seen anything on qualifying for him.
Because that could be an interesting one. I mean, maybe if it's not there in time for qualifying, if they're able to get specific odds for him in the race, maybe worth a shot. What do we think?
I think Ty Gibbs is always an interesting bet, to be honest. Like, I think my favorite Ty Gibbs right now is the future is the winner of the Xfinity Series. That's kind of where I'm going on it. The odds are getting shorter kind of by the week on that one. So that's looking into the future. That's probably my favorite Ty Gibbs one. But I mean, he's always fun to bet, especially if you want like a little scratch the itch on Saturday there.
I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on him in the Cup Series just because referencing Hamlin again on the Door Bumper Clear podcast today. He mentioned that Ty Gibbs, they had a team meeting and before this past week, and they were like, "What's your plan for today?" And he apparently was like, "Hammer down." And Hamlin was like, "Absolutely not, son. Like, let's push the brakes a little bit. We're just looking for like a top 15, top 20 finish." So
I like that though. That makes me like want to bet on him even more.
Here's the thing though. Denny Hamlin is not controlling those decisions as much as he'd like to think he is. I think it's a certain grandfather who's got a lot invested in 2311, I'm sure. And
that's fair. That's a fair point.
I will say Denny is in his ear, though. If we know something by now, just kind of what we're kind of seeing, we're going to talk a little bit more about it later. We're going to talk about some Dynasty Keeper related stuff and what to make of the Kyle Busch situation. But, I think with what we've seen out of there, Denny definitely seems to have the hand in Joe Gibbs a little more than Kyle Busch does, I would say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think Hamlin he's a real polarizing figure in NASCAR right now. And I think he's showing how much he wants. I think he really, well, we'll get into this in a little bit, but I think he really wants 2311 to be Trackhouse in like the next few years. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what he's pushing for.
Yeah. So guys, let's go into our matchups and groups, anything we're looking in there. The first one I'm seeing that I'm really hot on, and I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, but like I said, I can't really ride Harvick at this point because I think it's either go for broke, and I think, the likelihood is it might be a broke this week as well with the 2-mile track. But I'm going Logano over Harvick at -115, so not the best odds, but I just can't trust Harvick anymore at this point, and I think what we've seen Logano do at Auto Club, whether it was a top 5 there, whether it was winning 3 times here at Michigan previously, I mean, it's a fair match when you think of a 3-time winner versus a 3-time winner. Harvick might even be a 4-time winner. I think maybe going back into the early 2010s as well. But all that said and done, I think Joey Logano is getting hot at the right time here. He just got his first top 10 this last week in a very long time. So I'm going to ride the hot Joey Logano wheel while I can.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I mean, if there's one, I think Chris Wormy brought this up with you guys last week or 2 weeks ago. Is there's one crew chief that is going to, really try to go out there and do a different strategy, it's Joey Logano's crew chief. So I think, and we already brought up how Harvick is kind of racing records or checkers right now. So yeah, I don't hate it at all. I think Logano, I would probably take the Harvick side though, just full disclosure, but I can make the argument either way.
Yes,
Elliot, what's your lean there, Elliot?
This is definitely a tough one because we have seen Harvick do well here in recent times, but I think those are even still too far away. I think I got to go Logano here because Harvick, he did sweep that doubleheader in 2020 here, or was that 2020, the COVID year? But Chris, you're a big numbers guy. With how old Harvick is right now, he is past the age, he's past his prime. And I feel like I mentioned this on this show before. Who knows if we see him hit victory lane again in the Cup Series? He's at that point.
No, you're 100% right. And, I feel like I keep bringing Denny Hamlin up this podcast. I should have changed my shirt. I currently need a Denny Hamlin shirt. But there's a quote. There's a Denny quote when he was on the Dale Jr. download about, talking about how the stats really do show that once you reach that certain age, it's hard to get in the victory lane and your prowess on the tracks really decline. But I don't know. I feel like Harvick still got it in him. I really do. At least one more. I think he needs one more.
It's so tough though, because every time we've gone back to track history this year where he's had favorable tracks, I mean, he's obviously good for a top 10, but it's a lot of time it's been the lower top 10s. It's been 10th, 9th, 8th, and I see a top 5 day out of Logano coming on Sunday, and I just don't think that's in the cards for Harvick. But that, that's just me. But it could happen. I mean, we basically faded Tyler Reddick at the wrong time this year, so maybe we're going to fade Harvick at the wrong time as well. But I think I've lost my faith in him outside of an occasional top 10 bet, which that's even been streaky the last couple of weeks. Average finish position for Kevin Harvick, 30th over the last 2 weeks. So again, just not getting it done at the end of the day. But we'll see. Chris, do you have any other group bets or head-to-head bets that you're making?
Yeah, so actually similar to you, I've got a kind of probably an unpopular one as well this week. But Bubba Wallace over Eric Jones. And I've seen a lot of people jump on Eric Jones just purely based off of Auto Club. And I just inherently disagree, honestly. I just do. I don't see Eric Jones performing well this week. At the Charlotte, Kansas, and Vegas metrics I've been bringing up, he's finished 14th, 32nd, and 31st. For an average finish of 30th at those 3 tracks, where Bubba, I mean, we are seeing so much speed out of him lately, especially 2311 in general. And these same 3 tracks that reference is 28th, 10th, and 25th. So not great, but that 10th place finish bumps his average finish up to 19th compared to the 30th for Eric Jones. And then my model actually has them back to back. So I guess good job for the books for picking this matchup. But I do give Bubba the edge here. I was really tempted to bet Bubba's outright this week. I don't know why, but something just tells me Bubba is just he's on the precipice. He really needs a victory for that team. I think the Riddick signing actually puts a little pressure on Bubba.
No doubt.
So I know it sounds crazy to bet Bubba at a non-super speedway, but they're showing so much speed, and I already have this lean on Toyota as it is. If I could find a better number, I think I only have access to plus 2,500. I don't know if I want to click that, but if I could find like a 30 or 3,500, I might be clicking to Bubba outright.
That's
and I mean Bubba even running, he ran top 5 on a road course, and he has never shown any sort of positive spin on road courses. So I think that team, whether they win or not, I think that team is going to go on a bit of a hot streak here.
Yeah, he's been a really tough one, honestly. He's burned me a lot this year, just whether it was, some poor finishes in my DraftKings lineups that just sank him. A lot of the time, though, Elliot, a couple weeks ago, we faded him going into New Hampshire, and he had a career day at a track that he's never even been top 20 at. So I can't get involved. I can't get in bed with Bubba Wallace anymore. I won't do it. I don't care what's at stake. But I do like Eric Jones a little bit this week. I'll be honest with you, Chris. So that might be one I have to not tell you on. But I appreciate the take nonetheless.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of round out my point on Bubba is that I think the track, if I am going to use those, the 3 tracks I keep mentioning, I think the one that is most comparable is actually Kansas. And if you go back and look at Kansas, Bubba was 9th in green flag speed and 7th in as fastest late in a run, compared to Eric Jones's 26th and 25th in the same 2 metrics. So if this race turns out to be a little bit like Kansas, this could be a little bit of a runaway matchup.
Awesome. Chris, any final bets for you this week that we haven't covered, whether it's in groups or anything like that?
So yeah, to be completely honest, I'm a sucker for plus money matchups. And there's a lot of good ones out there this week. I mean, I think Seth, I think you'll be a fan of this one. I think Larson over Elliot at plus 100. The fact that we're getting plus money on Larson is incredible. And I think Larson just has the better stats of this track in general. So the fact that he's plus money, I think that's outrageous. I'm on Bubba in two ways, actually. I'm on Bubba over Eric Jones, but also Bubba over Suarez. Probably another unpopular one. I've seen a lot of people on Suarez this week.
Can't do it, Chris. Nope. Can't do it, bud.
I listen, I'm telling you, the plus money ones, they get me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I see plus money. I'm like, oh, no one else sees that,
It's basically free money, right?
Right. Yeah. Or as Rod and Cody always say, you don't pay the juice if you don't lose or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I guess then the last one is if I'm leaning on Toyotas, so I know Seth's not going to agree with this one, but Denny over Chase Elliott is also plus 100. Denny has incredible stats here and incredible stats at those same three tracks I've been bringing up this whole time. Hang on, as I'm scrambling to get back to my notes here. But he is first and fourth at Charlotte and Kansas was Denny, compared to where was Chase? 33rd and 29th at those two tracks. So Denny plus odds there as well with the Toyota matchup. I might be betting a lot of these plus money matchups, I'm being honest.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's one that I think both Denny and Chase, like I'm expecting top 10 days out of both of them, hopefully a top 5 days out of Chase, the way I'm betting him right now. But I could see very easily Denny sneaking in that top 3. So I don't hate that one either, Chris. But either way, man, appreciate all the great bets you've laid out there. Some really great strategy tips earlier in this episode too, especially with the qualifying bets. That was really interesting. So I appreciate that point of view, Chris.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Well, Elliot, why don't we jump into draft or pass, which we're going to talk a little bit about dynasty, a little bit about keeper leagues. If you're playing any long-term fantasy NASCAR leagues, what you need to know about the Kyle Busch situation, what you need to know about Tyler Reddick, Ty Dillon out of his ride as well. Guys, if you are new to the channel as well, In Between Media, we combine feel-good lifestyle advice with fantasy sports advice, fantasy NASCAR, fantasy football, fantasy golf. If that sounds like your thing, please give us a thumbs up on this video and please hit that subscribe button as well. That is the easiest way to support us here at IBT. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into draft or pass.
5 now, quarter, 5, 75, sold your way, 65
That's
and a
pretty
half.
cool.
21, Andy Rock, 21, Rockstar.
All right, so we have had. All right, we got one more bet here.
Yep. One more question here from Derek. Thoughts on Chase Elliott minus 110 versus Kyle Busch minus 110. Elliot, any early leans for you either way on this one?
This is a good one because I like both of these guys at this track. I've talked up Hendrick. I've talked up the Toyotas a little bit. None of them are the Fords that I want to go with in Michigan. We're sticking with that shtick. I think I'm going to go Rowdy here. Gut feeling. We'll go with Rowdy.
Chris, I know you're probably tailing Rowdy going hashtag Team Toyota this week, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kyle Busch was first in green flag speed at Kansas and fourth fastest late in a run at Kansas. So if we just look at just Kansas as being the most similar track to Michigan, that he blows Chase out of the water, whereas Chase was only 15th in green flag speed there. So if you're a fan of green flag speed, I know some people are not fans of that metric, but I mean, the Toyotas were incredibly fast at Kansas. So if they can repeat that here at Michigan, I think Kyle Busch is the way I'm riding here for sure.
Fair enough. Elliot, why don't you take it away here, man? With I mean, it's been a crazy time in NASCAR. Probably more movement earlier in the season than I thought we were going to get. More movement than I think we've had lately in the last couple seasons. Yeah.
So we've had the silly season ramp up a bit early, and it really started with a bang when you had Tyler Reddick do kind of the Collinsworth slide into the Denny Hamlin 2311 press conference. Oh, hey guys, he's signing for 2311 starting in 2024. Now, I'm not ruling out the possibility of Tyler Reddick in a 2311 car in 2023, but as of right now, it's 24. So are we drafting him long term or passing on him long term once he makes that move?
I mean, I have to everything we've seen out of 2311, and let's not act like they have the best drivers in the world. They have Bubba Wallace, they have Kurt Busch. Those are both Kurt Busch is a top 12 driver, in my opinion, and driver 2, as we call him in fantasy NASCAR here. And as far as Bubba Wallace, I mean, he's a top 24 driver in the game right now. I think Tyler Reddick, he's, right there in the top 15, top 12, and he has upside to be one of the top 5 drivers in NASCAR. So if you're playing in one of these long-term fantasy leagues, I think Tyler Reddick is definitely worth the investment now more than he was. I mean, let's be honest. RCR has kind of been going, I don't want to say downhill, but they're good for 1, maybe 2 wins a year. And they've already kind of got that with Tyler Reddick. So I'm not expecting much more this season. Chris, you being, plugged into that number 8 team as much as you are, do you disagree with that at all?
No, not at all. Obviously I've got the Reddick shirt on, so you probably know where I'm going with this, but I'm a very strong draft Tyler Reddick. I mean, I think he is every bit as showing signs of being, what Larson was 3 or 4 years ago. I think his trajectory is incredible right now. And, there's been a lot of talk about how Reddick 2311 wasn't the best offer that Reddick even had on the table sitting in front of him, and he still took it. This is where he wanted to be. He believes in Denny Hamlin. He believes in this team. Denny's talked about how, he wants to change the sport. He wants to, he doesn't want to be just the alliance with JGR. He wants to be, a top competing team, next to, Trackhouse and Hendrick and all of them. So I think Tyler Reddick, I think this is a great move for him. It's a bet on himself in a sense, because it's a lateral move from RCR in a sense. I mean, technically speaking, but I think he saw the writing on the wall at Chevy. Like, there was no room for him to go anywhere else, unless he was just going to sign a long-term and with the 8 team, and to see what 2311 and Denny Hamlin was doing, I think it was a great investment for him. And yeah, if I was I actually am in a Dynasty NASCAR league, and I would give up just about anything I could to get Tyler Reddick. I wish that I had Tyler Reddick on my team.
Where do you value him, Elliot? Where would you value him, like long-term Dynasty approach? Like, would you put him in the top 5 moving forward, like, 5-10 years from now, just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forget which one of you said to put him in the top 5 metric, but I do think he ends up top 5. 2311 is not going to fail. It would take something just astronomical to happen for it to fail. And they've done this perfectly. Their first car, Bubba Wallace, a guy with potential. Whether he reaches it or not, we're not sure. He's not safe, forever in this ride. But he's a guy who brought in eyes to the team. He brought in some good runs. He's a decent driver. He's not normally going to tear stuff up. Then they expand to a second car. They get Kurt Busch. You look at Kurt Busch's history over the last 10 years after he had all the crap happen with Roush and Penske and getting fired. Every single team he's gone to, he's made it better. And he's done that at 2311. Now, whether it's Reddick going into one of the 2 existing cars or a third car, now you've made your preparations. You've got the funding with Wallace. You've got the experience and made your team better with Kurt Busch. Now you've got the guy that can go out there and for sure win you a title, one of the hottest prospects in NASCAR. I may even throw him in the top 3, depending on how things go. If we see 2311, if we see Bubba Wallace start ripping wins, if we see Kurt Busch really come back and light on fire, if we see Ty Gibbs have some good runs, or John Hunter Nemechek, or whoever has to sub in this car, if it takes Kurt Busch a while, I think that this is the perfect trajectory. And Tyler Reddick being a multi-time champion in the next 5 to 10 years is not out of the picture at all. I think it's very reasonable.
What do you guys think about this year? Do you think there's any chance he actually goes down there in the playoffs his first season? Was he in the playoffs last year? Did he squeak in as well? Maybe like 16th or something?
I think he just missed it.
Okay. Yeah, I knew he was right around
the cut. Both the RCR cars were 17th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, are you expecting any success from in the playoffs here? Because he's getting hot at the right time. I will say that. He looks a lot better than some of these guys lower in the playoff standings. Elliot, you're Alex Bowman specifically, worlds apart.
Yeah, I think this year more than next year, without a doubt. Like, I think this is his opportunity, and the 8-team opportunity to really, pounce on this opportunity while they have it. You see all the time where sometimes all it takes is get that first win out of the way, and then they just start reeling them off. And the fact that we still have at least 2 more road courses, right? Or is it just 1 more?
2 more, Glen and the Roval.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the Roval. That's right. Oh, duh. Right in my backyard. But yeah, so he's already supplemented himself as a road course specialist now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if when we get to the Glen, if Reddick and Chase are both plus 500, plus 600 next to each other.
Yeah.
And then, I don't really know that Reddick has a weakness other than super speedways, I guess. That's probably his only weakness, but RCR tends to always bring really good engines to the super speedways. So for a guy that doesn't have a weakness at any track, and if he can make it to that final 4, I think he's a serious contender, honestly.
Yeah, might be worth looking into his future odds as well, if that's something you're interested in. We've had a lot of fluctuation. I've been kind of tracking those odds all year, and I'll say last week you probably get him a lot better than you could now if you want to take him to win the championship.
Yeah, I think so. Ian, my co-host on flag hunting, I think he actually picked him up after the Road America win. I think he got him at like plus 1,800 or plus 1,600 or something like that. And
Okay,
I wish I would have jumped on at that point because I don't think you can get him at that now.
Right.
Yeah. So here's my deal with Riddick in the playoffs this year. Having the wins and the upside is good.
Oh, looks like we might have just lost Elliot.
If you do, I'll just keep going. So Riddick, I think that he gets.
Oh, got you cutting out there, Elliot.
You guys got me back?
Yep, we got you back now, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, it's been spotty for a couple minutes. So I'll start my point over. With Riddick, it's the consistency that's going to be most important with him. You know, we've seen the wins. I don't know if the consistency's there. I think he gets knocked out in the round of 12.
Okay. Fair enough. Elliot, we also had some other news, just kind of, I don't want to say it's breaking because it's kind of on the precipice of breaking, but the Kyle Busch situation is very, very interesting, especially for such a decorated driver.
Yeah, in terms of Rowdy, I got to be a pass in the long term because if he stays with JGR, I still don't think he gets the top equipment there. He's been supposedly at least people feel like, I know a lot of in the Kyle Busch fan base, they feel like he's got the crappier crew chief. He's getting the crappier cars. It's not quite working out for him. I don't know that changes if he stays at Gibbs. But then where else is he going to go that he's going to be able to perform better right away? Gibbs is still one of the top teams out there. There have been rumors with Stuart Haas. I don't know how that works out. I've been a particular stand of him maybe going to Colleague Racing. That seems like a good match. Both of them.
That'd be badass.
Both
That'd
of them big trophy
badass.
That mindset matches up perfectly with those two. But Colleague isn't at a level where Kyle Busch can go rip out 5 wins a season right now. So, it all depends where he ends up. It'd be so much fun to see him go here, there, or anywhere. I think ultimately he stays with Gibbs. And I think ultimately maybe we've seen the best season out of Kyle Busch that we'll see.
Wow. Strong take, but I completely understand it. Kyle Busch has been it would be frustrating to be a Kyle Busch fan, honestly, especially because he's so moody, the last couple of weeks as well. But yeah, I think you're probably right. If you're in a dynasty league, maybe now is the time to sell. If he takes that 10 car, I'm a little nervous. We just haven't seen it out SHR. That out of the Chase Briscoe win this year, I think and then that long shot Eric Almirola one we called last year. That's really all we've seen out of them the last couple of years. So it's really hard to put your eggs in that basket. Chris, what's your take on kind of what we're seeing unfold here with Rowdy Nation?
Yeah. So I will start out my point with there actually is news that kind of broke. Well, I don't want to say broke today, but there's some murmurs that Eric Almirola actually may be back next year in the 10 car.
Okay.
I heard that. We don't have to go into this. I think that would be ridiculous. If we want to go into that later, we can. But I think that would be ridiculous if he does that.
But the point is, it takes another seat off the table, like you said. Like, I don't know where Kyle Busch would go. I think the best case scenario at this point for Kyle and JGR is that they just sign him for one more year and figure this out. Figure out, is it money? Is it sponsorship? Wait for this TV deal that they keep talking about. Wait for that to get all figured out and all sorted out. Maybe the team will have more money to offer him. There was a really interesting conversation on the Door Bumper Clear podcast today with Denny Hamlin talking about how, he's probably a $10 million driver of what he should be, but they don't have that type of money to offer him without having that M&M sponsorship. Mm-hmm. So, what's in the works? We don't know, but I still have to draft Kyle Busch. At the end of the day, it's still Kyle Busch. And I don't see any reason why JGR would let him get out of their grasp. They just saw with another team swooped in to take Riddick away. Why would they let their top driver? In my opinion, he's the top driver at JGR. I know that he may not be showing the results, but Kyle Busch is still Kyle Busch. He's KFB for a reason. So I'm drafting him because I think we still at least have 4 to 5 years of Kyle Busch.
I think we've got a lot of time with Rowdy too, but I've got one really big reason that it'd be okay for him to leave that 18 car, and he's winning a bunch of races in Xfinity, and he's been in that 45 car the last 2 weeks. I think that it would be an extremely easy decision. As tough as it is to let Kyle Busch go, Ty Gibbs could slot in there, make absolute peanuts for a year. He can race. I'm sure Ty Gibbs would race for Jesus bucks if he wanted to. If they didn't.
He doesn't need to. He's from a Silver Spoon family, baby.
Right. He's not worried about money. You can put him there for absolute peanuts or Jesus bucks or whatever you want to do. He'll go out there and he'll perform really well. Is he going to be Kyle Busch? No. But again, when's the last time we've seen Kyle Busch rip out, 6 wins a year, do something ridiculously dominant?
Man, those early years we were playing fantasy NASCAR, he was a titan. He almost like ruined the game for a while because he was like a cheat code. It was him and Kevin Harvick every week back in like 2017, 18. That was crazy. But guys, last one here, I think for you, Chris. What do you think about Ty Dillon? Is this a salvageable Cup Series career as far as keeper dynasty leagues are concerned? He's out at petty GMS here, and I don't know, man. I was hot. I was in the Ty Club's Ty Dillon fan club earlier this season. He helped me ride a lot of DK lineups to promise earlier this season. Got me my first overall win as well at a couple road courses earlier. So, I like him as a driver, but I think this was really his opportunity to shine. And if he can't make it with Petty, I don't know if he can make it. Chris, any hope for him?
No, I'm sorry. I hate to be blunt, but no, there's not. I think he needs to drop down to Xfinity or drop down to be, a part-time driver for a lower team at super speedways. That's what he excels at. There's not much there for Ty Dillon. I mean, there's been rumors of, maybe his grandfather will sign him for the 8 car. It's not happening. It's not his. Noah Gragson's coming into that seat, and end of story. And then Petty GMS, I don't know. If he couldn't get it done here, I don't know where. Like you said, I don't know where he's going to get it done. I mean, Eric Jones is supremely outperforming him this year. So yeah, I think that this might be the end of the road for Ty Dillon in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I think it absolutely should be. So I'm pretty sure he was only in that car probably. I don't want to say a favor to Richard Childress, but I'm sure Richard Childress had a lot to do with getting him in that car. The performance hasn't been there, and I'm not ruling it out that Ty Dillon's in the 8 car next year. I'm not. But it would take RCR would never be looked at as a competitive organization again. So I don't think it happens because they've run better over the last couple of years with the good drivers. I think, they've got talented guys in Xfinity they could bring up, whether they want to push Reddick out next year or for 2024. So I think Ty Dillon's done. This 42 car, whoever steps into that, I know you mentioned the Gregson rumor. This is a relatively wide open seat that could be really interesting for one of these young drivers that don't really have a home.
Josh Berry, baby. Give me some Josh Berry.
So I was on the Fanfuel Motorsports show. I think it was earlier this week, if not last week, with Alex over there. And we did a big silly season show. And I brought this point up with the 42 car. Very intriguing. It's not a top-level ride, but we've seen Eric Jones do well. He was re-signed there because he believes in the team, at least for another year. So Josh Berry's a name I looked at because I don't think Dale Jr. is going Cup racing next year. I think Josh Berry has shown he can be in a Cup ride. I don't think Junior would block it. He's still in a Chevrolet over there. That could be a name. If you do see Almirola come back in the 10 and there's no room at the end at Stuart Haas, maybe you give Ryan Preece a shot there. Because, he probably should be in the 10 car next year. I think Almirola, the performance just hasn't been there. And the only reason to bring him back is if you still can't get a funded driver in the 41, whether it's Custer, whether they do get Kyle Busch and you have to eat a little bit of money putting Haas on that car. Another name I thought of, maybe Zane Smith. I don't know if you rush him back in the Cup, but I think if he comes back not back in the Cup, but rush him in the Cup, I don't know if it ends up. I don't think he's going to stick with front row there. There's with Todd Gilliland. Maybe that's a guy you could go. Maybe if Custer gets bumped from the 41, you put him there. So this is a really interesting ride that could end up with a relatively high upside driver. So Ty Dillon, I'm out on. Whoever's in that 42 car, I'm in on.
And didn't we just have another announcement with one of the Xfinity drivers as well, just signing last week, or maybe there's some rumors of one signing as well?
Austin Hill. He's coming to he's running RCR this week in a 33 in the Cup Series.
Okay. What do you project for that, Chris, kind of being plugged into that team a little bit?
I honestly think that where I stand right now is I think Gragson's going to jump into this 42, and I think Austin Hill is going to come into the 8, or they won't run the 8 next year and they'll run this 33 car and let Austin Hill run the 33. That's kind of what I think. And then I think Ty Dillon could step down to be the RCR Xfinity driver. I think it's going to be kind of like a little triangle there. Mm-hmm. I love all the points that Elliot brought up. I'm a big Zane Smith guy. I think Zane Smith, but if Ford lets him go, that's just not a good move. Not a good move.
I don't know where the upward movement is because Ford has basically no presence in Xfinity. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with any good Ford driver.
Right.
Yep. Well, guys, this is great discussion. I honestly can't already wait for 2023 season. We know there's going to be a lot of shifts, a lot of movement, but we do have a huge season left here to talk about here at the Back Road. Fantasy football is right around the corner, but the Back Road, we're going to continue going strong over here as well. Chris, why don't you tell us one more time where we can find you and your work and how listeners of the show tonight can best support you?
Yeah, so we're the Flag Hunting Podcast. So we do a podcast usually every Tuesday night. We'll release it on Wednesday mornings on Apple and Spotify. So half the podcast is NASCAR oriented, half the podcast is PGA oriented. So this week we'll be talking obviously about Michigan and the Wyndham Championship. The Wyndham Championship is actually in Greensboro. We're going to have feet on the ground at that tournament. Both of us are going to be there.
Nice.
So interesting listen tomorrow if you want to download that. And then I'm also tracking all of our picks. It's at Flag Hunting Pod on the Action Network as well.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Looks
We're
like
gonna have you
Elliot's
on the 19th hole next, huh, Seth?
Yeah. We actually had Ian on a couple weeks ago on the 19th hole, and they crushed it. So
You guys got me?
Yep, we got you back here.
Okay, sorry. I was gonna
All good. But yeah, Ian, Chris, guys, they're a talented duo over there at the Flag Hunting Podcast, whether it's fantasy golf, fantasy NASCAR, betting, they're going to get you all covered over there, guys. So Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Elliot, thank you for being here as well, hosting, holding down the fort for us. Hopefully Rod's back next show. And guys, take care. Good luck on the bets this week. Let us know how you do on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time, guys.